really nice to take this next 45 minutes just to take a pause and concentrate and focus on ourselves, because when we feel good, we're able to help other people feel good as well. So Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself and more about how we can create habits of happiness.
Thanks, Christine, and thank you everyone for joining the webinar. I really appreciate your attendance. And yes, you're spot on, Christine. It really starts with the individual, and if that person's happy, then obviously happiness is contagious and spreads, and certainly the one thing we want to be spreading amongst the community during Mental Health Month. In terms of my background, I started as a chemical engineer, as Christine said, and did 16 years in the corporate world as in the mining industry, actually. And in that time, I learned a lot, traveled the world, and really experienced different cultures and different types of people, working with the different I guess the laborers, and then also the white collar workers. So mixed it amongst everyone through the different age demographics as well. So it gave me a lot of life experience, and I wanted to be doing something that I was feeling more fulfilled, and hence why I went back to school and did a degree in complementary medicine, and then followed that up with a degree in nutrition and dietetic medicine. And I must say, I'm living the dream. Very happy, very fulfilled, and really enjoying the space I'm in. And it's an absolute privilege for me to be sharing my knowledge with you today. So really look forward to doing that with you. Christine's going to launch a poll.
Yes, yeah, I almost forgot about that. So if anybody has any questions throughout the event, please pop them in the Q&A box. If it's relevant to the point of discussion that we're involved in, I'll interrupt Anthony and ask it of him, or we'll get towards it at the end of the event. So we really want this discussion, as it's live. It's the beauty of being live, is we really want this to be relevant for you. So we're going to ask you a little question. It's all anonymous, about your age range, so that we can make sure that we're not talking about devices, if that's not really something that's a problem for you. But anyway, I'll launch the poll. Please fill it in so we can tailor it. And there you go. So do just let us know, very broad age ranges, where you're at today, and we'll make sure that we discuss things that are more relevant for those different life stages.
Thanks, Christine, for doing that. Yes, I'll start whilst you are filling in the poll, and then we'll get back to the results. But in terms of the topic happiness, it's really important that I talk about the definition, because it's ultimately a feeling, a sense to the individual. It's a very subjective experience. And so what I share today is very general in nature, and may or may not resonate with you, and may or may not make you happy. But it in general terms will make, I guess, the general population feel better about themselves. But it may not make them happy. It just makes them feel better about themselves. And so there's no biomarker. So there's no blood test you can do for happiness, or there's no pill you can take for happiness. And it's this feeling of contentment. It's, if you look at the dictionary, it's pleasure, feeling of pleasure, joy, satisfaction. And if you just look at, the first one and the last one I just mentioned, so contentment and satisfaction. So those feelings can be given in a moment that we're just grateful. So just being grateful for what you have, the people you have in your life, can bring a sense of fulfillment, in a sense that you have a lot more than what you probably think you do. Or and this brings me to my next point, is the point of comparison. So one of the things that really disturb us and make us unhappy is that we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, my life to this other person's life. Let me go back a bit. Everyone is completely unique and special. You have a completely different genetic makeup. You have a completely different upbringing. And we need to embrace that uniqueness. We need to celebrate that uniqueness. We need to share that uniqueness to the world. And the thing that will always make you dissatisfied, not happy, no pleasure, no enjoyment, no contentment, is when you compare yourself to others. And because you're always going to come away with feeling that you're not enough. And the reason why I bring this up is because you're comparing yourself to someone that's completely different to you, that has completely different strengths, and they may not be happy, although they've achieved massive success. And you'll see this time and time again, where celebrities are getting help for mental health, right? So being a celebrity, or being, in the eyes of someone, I guess you may see in the limelight as being very successful, it doesn't necessarily mean happiness. And so there's no point in ever comparing yourself to others. The best thing you can do for yourself is really look at yourself, embrace you, embrace your strengths, and showcase that to the world. And the way we do this is being authentic. So it's pulling off the mask. So it's really, this is what I read today. I've never heard this thing, but I picked up an article today, and it had this acronym called FUPO. So FOOPO. I probably pronounced it incorrectly, but it's a new acronym. But it's sort of a play on that FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. And I guess that fear of missing out is thinking that you should be doing the same thing as everyone else. And again, that's living someone else's life. It's not living your life. So this FOPO means it's a fear of other people's opinions, right? So again, you're living your life based on what other people think. And you cannot control what other people think. So why live your life as you think that person would like you to live it? So it makes no sense, because at the end of the day, you cannot control the way they're going to respond to your actions. So it makes pure sense just to focus on you growing yourself, being who you are, showcasing that to the world, and love being in your own skin. And this gets me back to probably be a good time to bring up the poll, Christine, in terms of the results, where people are mainly sitting.
So there we are. So most are in the old, though it's a good even split actually, between 20 and 50. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I did edit it, but it didn't come through for whatever reason. So there was an age group missing. Whoops.
Thanks for filling out the poll. It gives me an idea how to tailor the information to where you're at in life. But one of the biggest things that's coming out, and affects us all, no matter which age demographic you are, is the digital age. Because we can compare ourselves to anyone, anywhere in the world. And you're constantly seeing just the perfect life of other people's in this digital age. No one showcases them feeling down and out and living a normal life, or living just a full life. They're just showing this glamorous side of life, and we think, because we think, well, I'm not doing that, so therefore my life's not as good, and I feel discontent. And as I said, under the definition, if you're feeling discontent, you're not happy. We need to achieve this contentment, this satisfaction. Pleasure and joy will come from being satisfied, and it really starts with you, because, as I said, happiness is completely subjective. So what makes me happy may not make you happy at all. And that's what makes the world so special, is that we are completely unique and different. And we should celebrate that unique and different. And we don't want to be all like this one celebrity. But can you imagine how boring the world would be if everyone looked like that dream celebrity that you love and idolize, right, then there's no, what would be considered beauty, is because there's no point of comparison. Everyone's the same. So we can only actually see beauty because we've got comparison, you know, we can actually have that relative difference. And as you all know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So again, it's coming back to the subjective person. So yes, the media may portray this thing as beautiful, but everyone will have a different opinion on it. And you know, with your discussions with your friends, that, you know, you may consider that person really handsome or pretty or whatever, but they think, no, I don't like that person at all. And so again, it's coming back down to the individual and the way they perceive the world. So I just wanted to share some of those things, because what I see a lot of is people not accepting who they are and wanting to live someone else's life. In order for you to feel fulfilled and really be happy, you need to ask yourself this question: what do you really want? You know, what is that fulfilled life look like to you? And it's not someone else's, it's yours. So fulfillment to me is doing what I'm doing, you know, in terms of a vocation. Fulfillment to me is being surrounded by a loving and nurturing family. That brings me huge amounts of fulfillment. Also, you know, that also fulfills me is nourishing my body and taking great care of it. And I can share, you know, my personal experience. I've always lacked, you know, what's considered ideal beauty. And I was always told by my peers that I was ugly and that only a mother could love me. And so I heard that all through my upbringing. And, you know, you can imagine what that does to your self-esteem when you're going out and looking for that, like a soulmate, that you're thinking, well, only a mother could love me. Who would want me? And so that can really affect an individual and the way they feel about themselves. But there was a light bulb moment where I thought, well, regardless of what people think and what they say, I cannot change it. And the only thing I can do is embrace what I have and feel comfortable with what I have. And the way I did that was just work on the things that are in my control. Again, I grew up and the cosmetic age wasn't, it was probably around, but it was super expensive. So, you know, that was sort of out of the question. And I'm glad I never went down that path, because at the end of the day, the research shows that people that go and get, I guess, you know, changes to their body still feel unfulfilled. Because
so if to pause you there, as the thoughts come in my head, because, you know, I don't know about anyone else, but sometimes I struggle to figure out what that fulfillment thing is. Like, why, you know, people go, you know, find your why and all of that kind of stuff, and it's like, oh my god, I don't even know how to find my, I don't know, my toothbrush, never mind my why. So do you have some practical tips about, like, even if someone comes to you and goes, oh, I don't know what to do, where would you ask them to start?
So there's a couple of ways of going about this. The first way is talking about experiences that they've had that they feel totally happy and fulfilled. What were they doing? What was happening around them? Who was around them? And so just getting them to reflect back on these moments where they felt totally blissful. And the other thing I've got to mention at the start, I mention now, is that it's a state, right? And so it's not a permanent fixed thing that we, you know, it is a state that we're in for, you know, a moment. And then we obviously, the world changes and, you know, we don't. So what I'm saying is you don't just arrive at happiness and be happy for the rest of your life. It is a state that you need to always be working towards, or at least doing things that contribute towards your happiness. So don't ever think that you're going to, like, even with my vocation, there's moments where I feel down, but that's completely human, because at the end of the day, we are designed like that. We don't want to be totally satisfied all the time. We need to have desires to live. If you're just completely satisfied, then you wouldn't need, you just don't need anything, right? There's no needs or wants and desires. And so we do have this human desire to survive. And getting back to your point of the why, it's always good to reflect on what you value. What are the things in your life that are really important to you? Write them down. And then you could do a self-rating assessment against each of those things. So I value, for example, family. How do I rate myself from 0 to 10 in terms of feeling totally fulfilled that, everything in my family situation is great, or it's not, 0, the other end of the, so where do you rate yourself? Are you a 6 or 7 or an 8? I value my health. Again, you can self-rate yourself. I value my profession because I do it 5 days a week. I don't want to be doing something I don't like doing. So in terms of the work you're doing, your occupation, how do you rate yourself in terms of your satisfaction? So if you just look at all these aspects of your life, you can also have significant others, relationships, you can have your hobbies. So just look at these different aspects of your life that are important to you, rate yourself, and have a look at that overall thing. And you'll see that some areas are scoring quite well, and there's other areas that aren't. And because they're important to you, that's probably a point at which you need to start, taking some action. And again, it's just looking at what you like. So, when you refer to, when I'm referring to relationships, it's two-way relationships. Like, there's only thing that I can control in a relationship is me. I can't control how the other person responds, regardless of what I say. You could say someone that you love them, and then they go, "Oh, no, you don't. You don't really mean that." No, that's not true. And you got to mean, so you can only control with what you say and your actions and how you make people feel. However, you can never control the other side. So it's just important to focus on what you can do about it. And see how you can improve things from your point of view. And so, like, for me in relationships, I had a marriage breakdown. I was 25 years old. And I thought, that's because I saw my parents have the perfect, you see them stay together, they're still together now. So I always thought I was a failure for, a marriage that only lasted 2 years, and they've got this marriage that's close to 50 years. But I then thought, okay, there's some learnings in this for me. Relationships are important to me. I want to be a happy, happy person in a happy relationship with a loving family. What can I do to better myself so that I'm a better companion for someone else? And so it was always about what I could change, and so I started studying relationships, how do the relationships work? And, so I started to get into that. But getting back to your question, Christine, I guess I go off on so many tangents.
No.
Don't stress about, you need to find your why. I'm now 45, and I didn't really know, all I knew that I was unsatisfied in my vocation, what I was doing in the corporate world wasn't bringing me fulfillment. I thought, what do I like doing? I like health. And so I went and studied health, but I had no idea what to study. And so I actually changed a bit and changed courses and went along my path. And, now I'm a practitioner, and people say, you need to specialize in all this. And, I don't know what I want to specialize in. And so I think it's best just to go on the journey and just head in that direction that you say, this is what I want. So I know sort of what I want from a big picture point of view. I'm just going to take some actions that take me towards what I want. So it's not necessarily that's the yes.
Progress, not perfect. Yes. I think that was from your, so for those that don't know, Anthony also has a podcast, and gosh, how many episodes? You've got many episodes on there now, but the most recent one was a bit of a reflection, and he said, focus on progress, like what's the next step, not on what the end picture should or could look like.
Absolutely. So you don't need that perfectly defined, Christine, in terms of that utopia. You just need to know that there's certain aspects which are the things that you value, and roughly how you want them to look, and then just do what you can do in order to make them look better, and just start on that journey. And it really is just taking small steps. And I think that's part of the success of, doing this, creating habits of happiness. It is small steps. So if you're currently discontent, and there's massive discontent in the world at the moment, particularly with the upheaval we've had with COVID and constantly change. There's so much change going on. Is just think about some of the things you love, and then just take some small steps. So it could be then just like tomorrow, it's important to me, so I'm going to put aside some time to just Google and research, get some information on it, and then just start just making the tiny progress. But it is allocating time towards that, not thinking that, okay, it's important that I want to shift vocation, and we're about to go through this, what they call the Great Resignation, right? So this is what's sweeping through the world at the moment.
Yeah,
so there's
I've
lots
heard.
of people, lots of people thinking about change, and changing their vocation. But it's just thinking, if you're dissatisfied, what would you like to do? Start making inquiries. Start talking to people that are in that profession that you'd like to be in. Ask them what it's like. Ask them about their story. What advice do they have with someone that's thinking about getting into that profession? So it's just those people that may have achieved somewhat the dream that you want to, touch base with them, and then create your own path. You take the advice, but obviously do it your way. And that way you'll create your own footprint. And I think that's the best way to go about that.
We do have a question from the audience. Jane has said, which is relevant to what we're discussing now. As you get older, you lose more each year. Your health, your memory, your friends die or leave, children leave, you retire, have less money, less energy. How do you stay happy when you're losing all the things that you're currently grateful for? So what's I know there's no magic pill, but what's your advice there?
There is no magic pill, and there's obviously a mourning to when you lose someone. And there's an element of letting go. Like, so I think the older we come, and this is just natural too. It's completely normal to feel more insecure as you get older. So we enter the world with insecurities, and we leave the world with insecurities, and our confidence is probably the highest when we're, I don't know, 30 to 40 or something like that. So it's those insecurities can creep up on us, but it is letting go of the past, and particularly if they're but in a nice and kind way, which I want to say this. So it's not saying you're going to forget about that person. It's saying that that there is life after everyone passes, and there may be something that you said to that person that you wanted to do in your life. Maybe you do that, and that will give you purpose and fulfillment, because you always said to that person you always wanted to do this, or you said that you'd do this for them or whatever. Then
I guess it's if parts of you are changing as well, it's letting go of that too.
Yes.
So it's not just people. It's like yourself. You're changing. You're molding. It's about embracing how you are now, I guess.
Absolutely. That's what it is, Christine. It is very much living the here and now. So taking the learnings on board from the past, but not dwelling in the past and living in the past, being connected with the present and what's around you, and actually making the change that you want to see in the world. So, if you're dissatisfied with climate change, you start behaving and doing the things that you want the rest of the world to do, and become a leader, become someone that people look up to, inspired to. In terms of those body changes, there's a lot that happens to us as we age, particularly as for men and female, in terms of hormonal changes. And this again gets back to that, that we only value beauty, and this Western world is very much oriented around this beauty. Whereas in traditional societies, they actually value age, the wisdom, the elderly, and they have huge amounts of respect for the elderly and the wisdom they hold, and what they can share and pass on. And this is where we got to shift our thinking to, yes, there's lots of beautiful things that come with age, because you have so much life experiences. There's so much that you can share to the younger generation to help them through difficult times, because you've been through it. You've walked a similar path. And so that can be your purpose. It could be your purpose is just saying, well, yeah, I've had lots of life experiences. I'm going to help others navigate their way through it. And it could just be focusing on those loved ones that that are coming up behind you. Yeah. So I think and again, I experienced hair loss at 20 years old, which is ludicrous. So I had to come to terms with aging very early on in life. And again, I just went back to this thing that I cannot change it. Yes, I wish I could change history, and change that, I took Roaccutane and all those sort of things and blame things and be annoyed with certain things. But it is what it is. I just had to take the learnings from it, move on. And now I'm helping other people manage their skin without drugs. And that's me, I guess, taking the learnings of what I'm experienced and what I don't want other people to go through, and showing that there's another way of doing things. So I think on the other side, in terms of that, with life moving on, it's very much looking after, obviously looking after yourself as well, because you may not have done a lot of that, as you've gone through those years of parenthood or whatever, that career, that very successful career. It is then focusing on, yes, I'm in control of my health. And you're in control of, what you do around your movement, what you put in your mouth, in terms of how you spend your day. And you can spend it in a way and do things in a way that you like and you want to do. So I think it is just maybe revisiting those things that brought you some joy when you're growing up, but you didn't have time, during those busy career moments, and then going back to some of those hobbies. You might have some more time to do that.
Well answered. So where does the nutrition side of things come into the, so we've talked mindset.
Yeah.
We haven't touched on sleep yet, because I know that's a very important thing. But where does nutrition, because that's obviously your expertise as well. Like what can we do to support our happiness?
Yeah, and the reason why I spent so much on mindset, is because the mindset governs our behavior, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
If I don't touch on mindset, it doesn't matter what I say around nutrition,
because you're not going to do it.
Nothing's going to change. So in terms of the nutrition side of things, it's really getting back to the basics. And this is where I see people they see all this stuff, all the fad things that come up in social media and the fad things that come up in the media that, like headlines that, whether it be red wine's good or, coffee's no good or
75 hard.
Yeah, yes, yeah, again. So
my partner did that. I think he's still recovering.
So what I suggest you go is really go back to how we did things traditionally, and it's very basic. So traditionally, we prepared our meals, we cooked for ourselves, we built community and love and family around mealtime. Think how much disconnect there is today. It's like, so just simply sitting down and having a meal together is probably one of the most important things you can do around nutrition. Because when we're in good company, when we're not distracted by work, by social media, by thinking that we need to, be doing millions of things because it's, so cool to be busy. Our digestion is basically down-regulated, or, I guess the dial's turned down, it doesn't work as well. And so I have many clients that come and see me eating great food, but they're not assimilating the food because they're not in a digestion ready state. In order to be in that digestion ready state, we need to be preparing food. And this is where people go, I don't have the time. And we all have 24 hours in the day. We all have, so we all have the same amount of time. It's just because you don't think it's important. But if I explain why it's important, maybe you'll put aside the time, because when we're cutting the food and prepping it, there's smells released, and they stimulate digestive enzymes. So so your body's starting to prepare for digestion. And this is where you start salivating on the food, right? You're thinking, oh, wow, these smells and aromas, I just can't wait to eat it. If we're not doing that process and we just grab some food on the run, we go through drive-through, pick up some food, our body receives the food in its stomach and goes, I'm not ready for this. And this is where people experience bloating and feeling, getting reflux, indigestion, is because the body's not prepped. So really get back to the basics. Do things more traditionally, like our grandparents did, or your parents did, or and then really and our parents and grandparents, they all brought fresh food, fresh produce. They prepped it, they made it's all homemade. So grandma's homemade this, grandma's homemade that. Get back to homemade, and really I think the other thing I want to add here is our diets in the Western world are far too acidic. What do I mean by acidic? Essentially, we're eating too much protein and too much fats, bad fats. And we need to balance the protein with vegetables and fruit. And so the vegetables and fruit are too low. We need to increase vegetables and fruit. So every meal you want to be thinking, how can I get more veg in? Generally, we have protein-rich diets. So again, I'm speaking generally here. So some people may not be getting enough protein. So I'm not talking to you, but I'm talking to that typical Western meal that half the plate is meat, and then you got a quarter is carbs, and then a couple of little green things on the side. What I'd like to see is half the plate vegetables, a quarter of the plate your meat, or your protein. If you're vegetarian.
Someone has commented, slow cooking ? Is that
awesome?
Good one.
Awesome. Yeah, these traditional ways of preparing food, because they're ready to be digested. So fermented foods, fantastic. That's a traditional way of preparing for food. So fermented foods, slow cooking foods, bone broths, all these just traditional, sourdough bread's one of these traditional practices. So fermented means it's ready to digest, or more easily to digest, because the body needs to do less fermentation. When you hear all these people getting lots of bloating, lots of wind, it's because they're essentially, their digestive system's not ready, or they're eating the food's too raw, essentially. This paleo movement, not,
you don't like any of the fads, do you?
No. Certainly not 75 hard. Get away from all the fads. The most studied diet in the world, the most evidence-based diet, is the Mediterranean diet. It's supportive of cardiovascular health. It's supportive of mental health. It's supportive of, a lot of people want to improve their body image. It'll certainly help you with weight loss. It'll help you with digestive health. So, the Mediterranean diet, and it needs to be followed in its traditional way. I mean, it's the Mediterranean diet's become very westernized again. But
so pizza's not really it.
No. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, some anonymous has said, is it important to eat fruit, or is plenty of vegetables okay? So
sorry, you go.
No, it's just, that's the question.
Okay, yeah. So Absolutely. So a minimum of 2 serves of fruit a day. So that's your apple or your medium-sized banana, or a handful of berries is a serve. So a minimum of 2 serves. So you want to be doing more than that per day. And then vegetables, you want to be 5 plus. Ultimately, if you're getting more into optimal health, it's like 10 serves of vegetables a day. A serve's around 80 grams. And so it does. You're actually eating huge amounts of fiber. But the Mediterranean
fit
diet.
that in. Jane has also just added, do you favor grazing through the day or 3 meals? I would imagine if you're going to get 10 serves of vegetables, you have to do a bit of nibbling throughout the day. Have a carrot by your desk.
Yeah, so again, it's dependent on the individual. So people that are like have blood sugar regulation issues, or type 1 diabetes and things like that, need to eat more regular. Those that don't have any of those conditions, or, diabetes as such, best to have breaks. So we want
the breakfast, lunch, dinner, that's the kind of, or breakfast, dinner, supper more so.
Yes, absolutely. So having breaks. Again, the other thing I'm seeing a lot, people not eating breakfast, and then all their calories are backloaded towards the end of the day. That's the worst if you're wanting to shed some COVID kilos. So
we're all guilty.
you don't want your calories, your majority of calories consumed in the evening, and that will happen if you've missed breakfast. So again, the calories need to go to the start of the day and then ease off throughout the day. There might be many reasons why you don't feel hungry in the morning. And again, it's completely individual. The person might not be sleeping. They may be eating really late. Their digestive system may be switched off because they're too stressed. So the other thing I wanted to mention, I know we're getting short of time here, but stress and happiness cannot coexist, okay? So in order for you to be happy, you need to be able to manage your stress. And getting back to what manages your stress is going to be individual. So everyone has different ways to vent stress, or different preferences. So like what I'm not going to tell everyone is to go and meditate, because meditation, works for some, it doesn't work for others. But what I will ask you to do is just to have mindfulness time throughout your day. So it's time where you essentially just focus on one thing, and particularly for parents are just juggling so many things, and there's always 100 things on the go at one point in time. So I want parents to allocate time in the day, and look, I'm just asking for 2 minutes, okay? So it's not huge chunks of your day. It's just going to a spot in the house or spot outside that you really like, and just sitting there in your spot and just focusing on the birds, the nature, watching, like lying down and just watching the clouds and the different formation in the clouds. So it's really just taking your mind off everything else and really just observing one thing. So you could be observing your breath, you could be observing nature, you could be observing how your body feels. So actually acknowledging, I've got an achy knee. Okay, I've got an achy knee, or acknowledging that. I'm taking in that. And so you are taking your awareness to that. So it's really just centering into one thing. And so that will provide huge amounts of stress relief, is just being able to focus in on one thing and do one thing. And so really allowing, like, booking in that time for yourself to do something. And look, it could be something that you love. So it could be a hobby you love doing. It could be drawing, but it's getting away from everything, telling your family, this is my time. If you need anything, go and see the other parent or the other half. I'm doing my thing, and just make sure that's something you love doing, and then just focus on that. Don't think about anything else. So it could be dancing, it could be singing, it could be just, going for a bath in the ocean. So
a bath in the ocean. Don't bring any chemicals.
No. And the other thing is sleep. I certainly wanted to touch on that. Is there any other questions that I need to answer?
There is one in relation to nutrients. So Claudia has said, we don't eat much meat. We tend to go for pork at least once per week, fish and seafood. What would be the minimum meat intake you would recommend? Because this person finds it hard to digest. So, you know, not suggesting veganism or anything, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so in terms, like, how am I best to explain this? So, okay, so go with this. You know, this is again a general rule for thumb. I don't know what your exercise load is, how much resistance training you're doing, but generally about 1 gram per kilogram of body weight of protein is what you need. So, for example, if you're 70 kilos, which you're probably not, but I'm just using 70. I think it's the average weight of people, of human beings.
No one can see anyone, so nobody has any idea.
So 70 kilos, that would mean, like, so 1 gram per kilogram of body weight would mean 70 grams of pure protein per day is what you need to target. Okay. What I suggest you do is break down that 70 grams, not have it all in one meal, it'd be just too much and not good, because we can only assimilate around 20 to 25 grams of pure protein per serve.
So that 350 grams of steak is not a good idea.
No, absolutely not. So essentially anything the body can't use to make protein will be used for energy, right? So it's just essentially excess energy. We already have, in the Western world, we have too much energy in our diet. So what is that? So in terms of you mentioned, I think you have pork. So your palm size, I'm showing you my palm, is going to be roughly sort of 120 grams of weight. So that's your pork medallion, so to speak. And that's what you'd want to have, say for your dinner, or if it's fish, right? So that's your piece of fish. And that will give you roughly around 20 to 25 grams of pure protein for that meal. Excuse me. So so you need to be having that, that amount of protein 3 times a day in order to get that 70 grams. Like if you're vegan, then it.
Well, no. I'm just saying this person isn't vegan,
yeah.
But so you're not. I guess interpreting her question is, should everyone be eating meat or?
No. So what I recommend is if you're not digesting meat, then eat the meat. Like, fish is a meat. It's not a red meat or it's an animal, right? So with animal protein, you'll get all the essential amino acids, which is what we're all about. So with any animal protein, you're going to get the essential amino acids. So essential amino acids is what the body cannot make. It's what you need to bring in. And this is where vegans encounter some difficulty, is plants don't have all the essential amino acids in just one form. You need to be mixing different grains, different legumes, different nuts and seeds all together in order to get that complete picture of essential amino acids. So eggs, for example, again, is a complete protein. It's animal protein. Milk is a complete protein. So, the animal ones are easy to work with, and you need less of it. So, for the vegans and vegetarians, they need to consume a lot more in order to get that 20 to 25 grams. So you're looking, instead of like that 100 to 120 grams that I said, you're looking at more like 200 grams of legumes or 200 grams of rice or 200 grams of quinoa in order to get close to that 20 to 25 grams of protein. I hope I haven't confused you, but yeah.
But you do have your own practice. So if people would like to know more, they can get in touch with you and make appointments and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So we do have another question. I'm just going to preface that with we can stay on till 4:30 if people want to stay on. So if you start dropping off, completely understand the advertised time was 4:15 that we would end, but we will stay chatting. And if you're still interested in staying on, please do. But I would like to thank you all for coming. So to get this question, someone has said, are taking supplements beneficial? If so, which supplements should we take?
Yeah, so there's been research showing that a multivitamin taken over a 10-year period absolutely, provides better longevity. That's quite clear in terms of the research. But that's been consistent with that multivitamin every day, for 10 years. So that there's no harm in doing that. I always recommend, people take what they're not getting. Again, it's hard. It's a hard one. I'd certainly say, take a multivitamin. In terms of whether you need to take fish oil or you need, because there's, lots of media saying if you have so much omega-3 or, it's good for mental health or, it's good for weight loss or, these sort of things. So what I suggest you don't do is just, read all the headlines and then go running and grab these supplements. And particularly around weight loss, there's always things like, oh yeah, if you buy this tablet, it's going to create, you shed your kilos or whatever. So I wouldn't buy into that. I always want people to at least improve their diet first and then look at where you may be deficient. Like a lot of people are deficient in like vitamin D because we've been brought up with slip, slop and slap. So we've gone
too far the other way.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So particularly the young children today. But you can get vitamin D in foods, right? So eggs have vitamin D, milk's got vitamin D. Vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. And, in certain foods, actually a good source to help you is to go to myfooddata.com. So if you Google myfooddata.com, that's a real credible source of information. So, and you've got little drop downs, you can choose vitamin D and it will highlight
Food Data, did you say?
Yeah, myfooddata.com. It's the entry of the data is governed. That's it. Yep, that's the one.
Sorry, I put a comma, not a dot.
Yeah,
apologies.
Yeah. But that's really, it's like, so vitamin D, or if you have particular concerns that you're not getting enough magnesium or zinc, go to this website, and then you can choose the drop down magnesium, and then it will show you all the foods that are high in magnesium. So it can really help in that sense, in terms of if you're, maybe your GP saying, you need to, this is low, so you need to pick this up. I think that's a really good source in terms of food as medicine.
Jane has asked, is there a book you would recommend for health and nutrition?
A book. That's a difficult one. Just trying to think of a recent publication. Nothing comes off the top of my head. So I apologize. There is.
Well, if you think of it, we will be, and another person has asked the question about the recording. We will be sending a link to the recording when it is available. And if, Anthony can have a bit of time to think of some resources, and we can include those there as well.
There's a book, Dr. Norman, Dr. Norman, he's big in the States. He's recently authored a book around long. Yes, that's it. Yeah. So Google Dr. Norman Swan. He's certainly big into food and lifestyle medicine, and he's just recently released a book which I've downloaded on Audible, but I haven't listened to it yet. Is there any other questions? Or
what is a good food to improve the skin?
That's fun. So in terms of where I see people not getting enough, would be vitamin C. So that's your citrus, your kiwi fruits, your tomatoes. Again, my food data, if you go to vitamin C, you'll see the foods that are high in vitamin C. So vitamin C, zinc is another one. So zinc is probably a big one, actually. Zinc's typically bound to protein. So if you're not getting enough protein, zinc could be a bit low. If you're some people get a lot of reflux, and it can be due to low stomach acid, and it may be because you're not have enough zinc in your diet, so the body cannot produce the stomach acid because of the low zinc. But zinc's also important for the immune system, and also very important for skin health. So zinc, vitamin C, they're both key. Vitamin A, vitamin E. Again, A, E, and is a fat-soluble vitamin. So you'll get them in your healthy fats. Well, in terms of your fruit and vegetables, your A is very much around your orange, like your orange-looking vegetables, your orange fruits. Your red ones as well is vitamin A. In terms of zinc, your plant ones are your nuts and seeds, plant sources, nuts, seeds, legumes. Your meat is another source of zinc. Oysters are off the Richter scale in terms of zinc. And what else would I say around skin health? Collagen is probably the other one. Again, that's if you're getting enough protein, you'd be. But yeah, these collagen powders, and it's a bit of a hit at the moment. A lot of people, all the celebrities are into their collagen.
So it does help to have some chemical engineering background
Yeah.
for all of these things, because your diet starts looking like a chemical shopping list. So Claudia also has said some medications for depression, anxiety slow down metabolism. Are there any particular foods that help speed it up?
Yeah, there is. So in terms of metabolism, I'd always start with your thyroid. So thyroid is the governor. So it's just around here. Is the governor for metabolism in terms of fat metabolism, carbohydrates metabolism, and protein metabolism. So in order to look after your thyroid, you need to have adequate amounts of iodine. And iodine comes from the sea. So if you're not eating anything from the sea, there's a high likelihood that your diet's low in iodine, unless you're having iodinized salt. So I suggest you buy iodinized salt. That's table salt. If you're not eating anything from the sea. Iodine's critical. It's the backbone of the thyroid hormone. Then you need zinc and selenium. So I mentioned the sources of zinc before. Selenium, your Brazil nuts are a really high source of selenium. Again, you'll get it in meats and animal products, selenium. Zinc, selenium, iodine. And you need to manage your stress. So managing stress is
stress
key.
Is here again.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of if you're getting constipation or your bowels aren't moving as well as you'd like them, ginger is a fantastic way to stimulate bowel movements. So you can have lemon and ginger tea. So I buy the lemon and ginger tea from Aldi. It's fantastic, but you can get it from Coles or Woolworths. That's a good thing to have in the morning to get your bowels moving. What else? There's certain supplements that can help with getting those bowel movings. But I think one of the best things to do in terms of getting your bowels and metabolism happening is breathing. It's one thing we don't do enough of in this Western world because we're so rushing around, fast paced. We need to stop and breathe. And really, so one thing that would be a useful practice in the morning is just waking up, going to a nice spot in the house and just taking a few deep breaths, and that will wake you up. It will oxygenate your brain. You'll feel more alert. You'll feel more energized. And it really helps with getting switching on that digestive system. So when we're taking deep breaths, we're stimulating our vagus nerve, which stimulates our digestive function. So So the vagus nerve. So if I've actually got a podcast on interview a vagus nerve expert. So there's heaps of ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. But that singing, dancing, smiling, being joyful, doing the things you love really help. Being playful, getting out in nature are all ways in which you can help that vagus nerve and getting digestion happening and improving your bowel motions and helping metabolism.
So we are almost at the time. I just wanted to, so we've covered mindfulness, or mindset, I should say, which is obviously kind of like a foundation thing to work on. And we've touched on relationships, we've touched on nutrition. We haven't covered sleep and movement. If you wanted to just quickly touch on those two essential areas of holistic health.
Yep. So in terms of movement, it's essential for sleep. We need to move our bodies. We need to and move them in the way that you like to move your body. So don't feel that you need to be doing CrossFit or 75 hard or whatever like that. Move it. Like if you love dancing, just do more dancing. Join a dance club, or so if you like walking, just do walking. Again, it does help.
Doesn't matter what. Just do it.
Move your body. It does help adding some resistance in there. So again, it can be body weight resistance. You don't have to join a gym. Just walk up the stairs, do some sit-ups, push-ups, some squats, lunges, just doing those, and just mixing up your exercise. So it's important you do some mobility sort of work and stretching. So just a mixed bag of exercise, but doing something every day. And again, up to 30 minutes. But if you're not doing anything, start small and build up. That really helps sleep. Everything I spoke about in terms of nutrition, so that getting more fruit and vegetables into your diet, making sure you've got adequate protein will also help with your sleep. Good relationships will help with your sleep. That mindfulness, or time to yourself to just do one thing and do something that you like doing, will help with sleep. So all these things that I've touched on all fuel.
They're all interconnected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And
so if one's really broken, it's going to affect everything.
Yes. So if you're in an unhappy relationship, that will affect your sleep. If you're unhappy at work, it's going to affect your sleep. Anywhere where you feeling that life's not going in your way or in your favor, that's probably something you need to address in order to improve your sleep. But in terms of the best advice I can give around sleep is being consistent with your time to bed and your wake up time, right? Don't change that. Keep that as consistent as possible. So if you're Monday to Friday, Monday to Friday, you're going to bed at 10 p.m. Like this is back when we had this structure, but we've got this no structure now. But so if you're getting back to the office, get into a routine where you go to bed clockwork every night at 10 p.m. You wake up at 6. Okay, and keep that consistent throughout the weekend. So as having these sleep-ins or these short nights of sleep really destroy.
How do you feel about naps? I love a good nap.
Yeah, no, naps are fantastic. As I said, if we get back to what we did traditionally, but don't have it any later than 3 p.m. and not any longer than 20 minutes ultimately. So there's nothing wrong with a nap. So if you like a nap, have a nap. Yes, we were actually, it's better for us. So
good to hear, because I love a nap.
Yeah.
I think Claudia has just written she likes a nap too. Thank you. So we are at the end of the extended time now, and I honestly could sit and listen for another 2 hours because I find it all fascinating, and I think we could all benefit from taking a little bit more care of ourselves as opposed to rushing around. But is there any one thing that you want to leave with people, that you want them to remember as a takeaway from this talk?
Yeah, it's in order to create new habits, we've got to make them attractive and easy. Okay, so that if like this is where 75 hard is just ludicrous, right? But so if you're not doing much around exercise, really just start small, and it's just doing up to 2 minutes. Okay, so just go for a 2-minute walk. That could just be walk up the street and back. Okay, and then just make sure you do that every day, and then you'll start feeling the benefits of doing that, and then you'll think, I'm actually enjoying this. It's a nice part of my day. I'm going to extend it. And then that 2 minutes will become 10, 20, and you'll have no trouble doing 30. And it's the same with mindfulness, right? And finding this time for yourself. You think, I don't have any time. I don't, I'm too busy. Well, just find 1 minute. Okay. Everyone can find a simple minute. And maybe that's 1 minute less social media time where it's, a complete waste of time. So really, again, just start small, make it as attractive as possible. Get yourself so if you're going to get up for that morning walk, make sure you put your joggers, your athletic gear right next to your bed. You make it easy. So you roll out of bed, you see your joggers. Oh, that's right. I've got to get up for a walk. And then just, start putting that on. That's the next step, right? Just put your stuff on. And then you think, well, I'm dressed up now. I might as well step outside. And just really, and then I think connecting that with where you'd like to be, but being patient with yourself in terms of getting there. Often we think like that person lost 6 kilos in a week. So what's wrong with me? Why am I losing 6 kilos? Again, gets back to everyone's unique and special. So just go on your journey, start small, and make it exciting and do things you love.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for sticking around for the extended time. This event is being recorded and it will be made available on the Randwick City Council YouTube channel. We will send an email with the link to everyone. And if there was anything Anthony wanted to include in that, we'll include that as well. Thank you so much for your time. You've been very generous with your time and advice. If people would like to get in touch with Anthony, they are there on his contact details are there. It's meandmywellness.com.au. I do recommend the podcast. Your voice is actually quite lulling. If I'm in bed, I'm asleep. So no disrespect, but it's just like, and we've had some lovely comments. So I will share all of the questions and everything with you as well, Anthony. So farewell to everyone. Have lovely afternoons. It is beautiful where I'm sitting. It's beautiful still. It could change. So get out, get those 30 minutes in, and have a wonderful Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining. And thanks, Christine. Very much appreciated. Bye.